Okay, welcome everyone. I'm John Gabriel, author and creator of the Gabriel Method, and we're going to be talking today about breathing for weight loss. And I have with me one of the most incredible people that I have ever met, and probably one of the most incredible people that have ever lived, and I'm not exaggerating. In fact, Discovery Channel has labeled him the ultimate superhuman. Why is that? Because he has the Guinness World Record for holding your breath. Now, when I was a kid, I was told that if you go more than 4 minutes without breathing, you die or you have brain damage. This is a man who can hold his breath for 22 minutes. Most doctors, most scientists say what he does is impossible. We're going to find out why he does that, how he does that, and how we can apply some of these techniques specifically to weight loss. Please welcome Stig Sverrisson. Stig, how are you?
Hi, John. Thank you so much for that kind invitation. And yeah, I'm really excited about this topic because it's, I would say, a very new way to use breathing, even though breathing has been with us from centuries and millennia. But to use it for a good cause in weight loss and weight regulation all comes down to controlling your nervous system.
So before we talk about it, I just got to ask you, how is it possible? How do you do what you do? I mean, even I remember the other day I was driving and they were doing some sort of construction on the road, and I didn't want to breathe all the fumes that were coming in, so I'm exhaling as I'm breathing. And 30 seconds, 90 seconds into it, I feel like I'm going to explode. Like, how is it possible that you do what you do? How do you do it?
Well, we all have what's called the inner dolphin. It's a mammalian dive response, and it's a part of the parasympathetic nervous system. And when you start to control and regulate your autonomous nervous system, then you can really start to get control of your heart rate, your digestion, your metabolic rate. So how much oxygen are you burning? How much energy are you burning? And when you start to understand that you can actually, through breathing, combined with the way your mind is working and your activities, you can actually start to change your metabolism. You can do fire breathing and upgrade your metabolism. You can eat less and still have the same amount of energy. So there are many ways that you can actually use it to your benefit. I would say not only for weight loss, I would actually say weight regulation.
Yeah. Well, I recently read an article. Now, we all know that stress causes you to gain weight. I mean, that's something we talk about in the Gabriel Method all the time. And we also know that inflammation causes you to gain weight. And we know that through meditation and breathing practices, you can reduce stress. But I recently read an article that through breathing exercises, you can actually reduce inflammation, that you can regulate the vagus nerve through breathing. And they determined that the vagus nerve actually contributes to a very large extent to inflammation. And
that's correct. Yes.
And I'm wondering if you can talk about a little bit about that, because if we can regulate the vagus nerve and activate these different, the parasympathetic nervous system and all these different things, we can actually use breathing to reduce inflammation and reduce stress, which will change our body on a hormonal level and help us to lose weight. Can we do that?
Absolutely. And I would say this is one of the most, if not the most overlooked secret of yoga, where you get direct access to the vagus nerve, which is, by the way, the 10th cranial nerve that we have, running from the back of our skull, so from the cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls coordination, movement, balance, and so forth. But not only do we connect to, so it's in the spinal cord. We have the breathing center, but that's also where we regulate the heart rate. And the vagus nerve springs from that area. It's very, very deeply integrated in our sleeping pattern, in the breathing pattern. And of course, the heart and the lungs are connected. So with breathing and with slow exhale, for example, you're absolutely right. We get direct access to the part of the nervous system that is called the parasympathetic, or in layman terms, the rest and digest. And that's the exact reason why we can actually boost our immune system, reduce inflammation, lower adrenal hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline. So all the things that stress us, that bind fat, that keep us in an unhappy place, you can actually reduce all those negative effects from breathing, because you move into that other space. You move away from the fight and flight, from the stress. And this has been known for thousands of years. That's why it's used in meditation, in mindfulness, in peak performance, in elite sports, and so forth. But people can do this just 5-10 minutes a day, and they'll see tremendous shifts. And actually, the main breathing yoga is called pranayama. Prana means universal energy, or it's also known as ki or chi in Aikido, in the Asian system of Japan and China, ki or chi. And prana is just the Indian or Sanskrit term, and pranayam means regulation of universal energy. So it's the energy in you that you can actually start to use to your benefit. So you can burn more fat, you can boost the immune system, get your thought process aligned. And you do that in pranayam through breathing exercises, through different ratios, through slow exhale, through controlled breathing exercises that are simple, yet very efficient. So that's the main mistake many people make. They think, oh, this yoga is not for me and this breathing is so complicated. It is not. But you have to apply specific ratios on the breathing, and you have to do it at specific times a day and so forth.
What's interesting to me about breathing is that you can create habits, breathing habits. So if you're breathing the wrong way every single breath, where you're breathing in your chest and you're tight, you're creating stress and inflammation every single breath, 24 hours a day. And yet through certain changes, correct me if I'm wrong, but these changes that you're talking about, you can actually it's not only the changes that you're doing in the breathing for the 5 or 10 minutes a day that you practice, but it's also you're changing the habit of how you breathe the rest of the time, so that all day long you're reducing stress and reducing inflammation just by breathing and just by habit. Is that true?
That's absolutely correct, and it's a great point you're bringing up, because it will even transcend into the night. You'll have deeper sleep, meaning you'll digest better. You will have less adrenaline in your heart, in your blood, meaning you'll lower your heart rate. You'll really go into that REM sleep. You'll get, into the different stages of a deep sleep. That's a recovery sleep. That's what we need in our body and our mind to recover spiritually as well for different trauma and difficult challenges in life. So back to what you said, it's absolutely crucial that you start by doing conscious breathing. So you're not doing the negative breathings. You're not doing the chest breathing, which will put pressure on your heart, elevate the blood pressure and so forth. But you use breathing to your benefit. So again, we all know changing habits can be one of the most challenging things in life. It's not because it's not a difficult change, but when you're not aware of it. Yeah. That's why they're also called bad habits, right? It's like a habit, not even aware of it.
Who would think? Who would think that breathing is going to cause you to gain or lose weight? To me, it's the biggest bang for the buck, because you're breathing all day. So like eating, you got to eat right. So you're only eating, a half an hour. If you add it all up, a couple hours a day at the most. Breathing, you're doing all day. So if you get the breathing right, it changes everything. So to me, this is one of the...
It's right there. It's right there. It's so in your face that people don't think about it. Elite athletes that I work with high performance, they eat well, they have massage therapists, they have the best equipment. Yet, I train, some of the best Olympian athletes in the world, gold-winning Olympian athletes. They also do not focus on the breathing enough. And then once they understand that is actually the main engine for any peak performance, of course, they shift their mindset. So, and people listening to this, maybe they're unaware of the fact that they're actually breathing about 25 to 30,000 times per day.
Per day. Imagine if every one of those breaths is wrong versus every one of those breaths is right. And every one that's wrong is causing a little more stress, a little more inflammation. Every one that's right is causing a little less stress and a little inflammation. To me, this is one of the most exciting breakthroughs in sustainable weight loss. And there's one other point that you brought up that I just want to touch on, and that's energy. And that is that we eat food for energy, but we also breathe air for energy, and we circulate this life force energy that we have for energy. And if we're learning how to energize ourselves more through our breath and through our life force energy, we're not as dependent on food for energy, and we're not going to be as hungry.
Absolutely. And I have never had a weight problem, so to speak. My problem is actually to keep on my weight, because I train a lot. Yeah. So to keep up the muscular activity and the protein, I actually have too much weight loss, so to speak,
Yeah.
when I train too much. But that can also be a problem, believe me or not. You know?
Yeah.
So,
It's not a
could be
problem for a lot of us that are listening right now, but what it is really is, I mean, you're in your mid-40s right now, and you've got the body of a 17-year-old. You know, I've seen you, you know, when you're surfing and everything, your stomach muscles and everything. And I think a lot of that is because of the way that you're energizing yourself so effectively with your breathing.
I would say two things, John. First of all, you know, I have lost too much weight sometimes, and that's when I'm also stressed. So it also goes the other way, you know. That's why I like the word weight regulation. I know most people want to lose weight, but we should also not neglect that some people are having having problems as well keeping on the weight.
Yeah.
So there's bulimic, you have anorexic people, you have different things related to weight. So weight loss or weight regulation in general. And when you dial in on the breathing and you get the balance right between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, everything equals out. So you digest the food better, you uptake the energy better. So actually pranayama, as I started talking about before, pranayama is energy work. You know, it is energy breathing yoga. That's actually what it means. You know, the life force, the life energy is pranayama. Yeah. But again, like you said, you are so kind and say I'm in great shape and such. I've been in better shape than now, but you know, I'm in my mid-40s. I'm 44 years old. I can start to see when I travel too much. I get stressed. I have too many projects at the same time that I start to develop some belly fat around, you know, the waist. And that is stubborn fat. And you are an expert on all this, and you can explain why it sits there. And, you know, for emotional reasons, it can stick there and stuff like that. But I can even tell the difference that when I'm not in the right place and doing my breathing exercises and I'm not focusing on the right diet, even though I have a high level of training, I also gain a bit of weight, you know, and it sneaks up, you know, a little by little. So you know, even though you don't have an excess problem of pounds and pounds, it still gets to you. Yeah. So I also use the breathing because just to talk about anatomy on a very basic level, when you breathe with your diaphragm and not with your chest, you're moving the diaphragm up and down about those 25, 30,000 times a day. So you're massaging your inner organs. You're massaging your stomach. You're massaging the intestines. You're actually enforcing and helping the peristaltic movement, so all the ball movements.
To improve your digestions, yeah.
You're increasing the digestion and you're balancing it. So I would say whether you want to lose weight or gain weight or just stay neutral, the breathing is crucial. And one last thing I would say is also, you're so right about the energy level. I travel a lot across time zones, and I use it also not to get jet lagged too much. But sometimes when I'm traveling, I don't eat for, let's say, half a day, 1 day, 1.5 days. But I don't get the pains.
Hungry,
I don't feel like I need to eat. I don't get the high blood sugar, because I can control it from the breathing.
That's happening to me sometimes too now, like where I can go very long periods of time without being hungry because there's just other energy coming in when you learn how to energize your body. Yeah.
And like, just to give you an example, you know, with ex-girlfriends, I've had to wake up and they're super hungry, like, oh, I need food. And I don't get it because, you know, I'm like, I go, you slept all night, you know, like, why are you hungry? You haven't moved. So just to put it into perspective, breathing can be a huge asset also for traveling. And now I just mentioned the jet lag, but also if you don't have access to food, then you don't have the cravings and you don't go into the panic of the adrenaline and the insulin boosting and you get all these, you get irritated and negative and you lose the energy. So it can really be maintaining your energy level throughout the day in a healthy way.
So I know you have a biology degree and you did a lot of studying of yoga and Indian and Eastern meditations and yogas and practices. How much the system that you've developed?
But you know that I finished with a PhD in medicine, so we can also, if people want to continue the dialogue, you know, we can dive more into the nervous system and into the brain and into the more anatomical, physiological aspect.
My question for you though is, the system that you've developed, which obviously has got to be one of the greatest systems in the world because you're doing things that are superhuman that no one else is doing. How much of that is developed from the PhD in biology and how much from the meditation? Like, is it like, where did you gain the most insight into the mind-body connection? And
that's a great question. First of all, you know, Discovery Channel dubbed me the ultimate superhuman because I won this competition when I did the 22 minutes Guinness World Record. I didn't make up this title, you know. I think it's fine they made it, but it's just kind of a title. But what I want to say is that I truly believe that everyone listening, to this conversation and everyone else beyond, we all have superhuman capabilities. Of course we do. We see it all the time in arts and music and in fashion and everywhere we see genius, and we have superhuman capabilities. We just need to know how to access those. How can we release those, and breathing, of course, is one of the most overlooked ones because, like you said so rightly, we need oxygen to thrive and to create energy. Oxygen is the main molecule combined with water and carbon dioxide and food that fuels the energy process. Yeah. And so I think everyone has access to this. But to answer your question, Breatheology, the system that I've developed throughout the last 15 years, has been based on cutting-edge science. I've been blessed to work with the best people in the world, as yourself, experts, leaders, thought leaders in fields of weight loss, peak performance, medical treatment, rehabilitation. But then also my journeys to India with my gurus and people that have supported me there, and have taken my under their wing and exposed 1,000-year-old secrets from the yoga, breathing, and especially the pranayama. Yeah. And then the last thing people might not know is that I also have a long background in elite sports. So from actually feeling my body and talking with the best athletes in the world, I gained access to some information about how the body really works and how you can combine breathing and peak performance. But you can use that in everyday scenarios. You don't have to be an athlete.
Yeah. Well, I find in general, the most successful people in the world are whole brain, whole body. So you're using an intellect and knowledge. You're using meditation, intuition, using your physical body. You're combining all that to create superhuman potential. And I think you're right. If we all combine every aspect of ourselves, not just our logic, but our intuition, not just our intuition, but our spiritual aspects, our life force chi aspects, digestion, physical exercise. If you're combining everything, you can become superhuman, and you're a living testimony to that. But I want to ask you, now you have a course now where you can teach us how to breathe properly. And I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about this course.
Yes, I certainly can. Well, my philosophy of coaching and teaching is always simplicity. And I think in order to be successful, if you have too many challenges or you want to do too much too fast, you will fail. Now, there's nothing wrong in failing, but if you fail over and over again, it's not really beneficial and it's not going to give you any results. And that's why people join anything in life or sign up for anything and get a coach, because they want results. So I'm very result focused. Now that comes from my elite background in sports, but I want to see results in my clients or people that work with me or, follow my program. So I've developed a 12 weeks program. It's online, meaning that people have access 24/7 when it fits them. And it goes step by step through all the things you need to know, from basic breathing to yoga breathing, to pranayama breathing, to diet, to how to battle stress, how to ground stress, what is stress, how does it appear in your life, and how can you actually be aware of it. So creating good habits, I usually tell people that my course will take you from, unconscious bad habits to creating conscious choices and creating good habits, as we've been speaking about today. And the reason why it's 12 weeks or 3 months is because what I've learned over the years of working with the best leaders and athletes in the world is that a permanent change in your life takes about 90 days. So 12 weeks is what it takes to rewire your nervous system, to get bad habits out of the way and create new good habits. I'm not saying you cannot feel results in a day or two, but to make them permanent and persistent, you need some time. So it's 12 weeks online, and I take you by the hand, and we also have live calls. We have great support groups on Facebook. It's a community where people really support each other and root for each other. So in that sense, you get much more than just the videos, high definition, of course, from around the world, but you also get peers and you get people that you have accountability partners. Yeah. And I think that's as important as the teaching itself.
So so if we go through this 12-week course, and I very much would like to do it myself, if you don't mind, love to participate. So if we go through this 12-week course, will we get to a place where we will develop the habit of breathing properly throughout the day? So as I said, so that we're reducing stress and inflammation throughout the day and helping us lose weight and energize our body throughout the day, going forward for the rest of our life. Can we hope to achieve that?
That will absolutely be achievable, because we have online quizzes, we have feedback. I take you step by step. I've been refining this course for years and years. So as I said from the beginning, I'm a result-based guy. I want people to have results. Why would I have them to sign up for my course and my teaching if it doesn't bring results? As a matter of fact, if people don't get results, they can just within the first month say, this is not for me, I didn't have the time, or it doesn't work for me, which I think it will, and we'll refund the money right away, because I want people to be successful. If they're not happy, they're not going to tell the neighbor, and they're not going to get the results they came for. So,
and how much time,
John, the monthly calls, I think, are super valuable. And we also send out the recordings, by the way. People can't, join the call, because they can ask all questions that they have on their mind.
So we get to talk to you basically and ask questions as we're going
directly, and that's something which is a different price range for one-on-one coaching normally. But in this scenario, I do it, in a group call.
And in this 12-week program, how much time would we have to devote each day to learning to breathe properly?
In Breatheology, in the academy, I aim for 10 to 30 minutes a day, because I want it to be reasonable. I want it to be, applicable in everyday situations. I know people are busy. You're a single mom. You have 3 kids running around. You have to go to work. You have to buy the groceries. You don't start with 2 hours a day. But a minimum would be 10 minutes. And I think if you want to see a permanent change in your life, you also must show up. You must dedicate at least 10 minutes.
Sure.
If you're like, I can maybe spare 30 seconds or 1 minute, you're probably not going to get results. So minimum is 10 minutes, and it's all based on a framework so the program is all about developing your personalized program. So people will get a framework, and within that, they plug and play and make their own special program that suits them. They can bring in exercises from their childhood, from gymnastics, from dancing, from, whatever, swimming. And they can make it a very special program. But the framework and the basic exercises I give to people.
And are the breathing exercises, are they relaxing and pleasurable, or are they stressful? And
we start from relaxation, because that's where everyone must start. You must start to relax. And that is another thing that I think is vastly overlooked. If you don't understand that there are many layers of relaxation, how can you start to work with your body from compassion, from the heart? How can you connect with your heart and lower that heart rate and work from a place of, abundance and space and love and self compassion? So when people start to relax, they immediately lower the cortisol and adrenal toll on the body. And you get, when you go from, we also start to get people into a flow state, or people also call it the zone. So you go into what's called flow in sports psychology. So you go from beta state, so the brainwave frequency goes into an alpha state. And that's where you become dreamy, and it's fun, and you're very relaxed. So it's a meditative state.
Awesome, awesome. So if we want to participate in this course, which I, by the way, very much would like to do, well, what do we have to do? How do we get more information?
Well, I'm sure you're going to send out some information once we get closer, but it's an online course. It unlocks weekly, so you just follow the weekly training. We've made sure there's no overwhelm. There's like 5 to 6 exercises per week. It starts from relaxation, goes into basic breathing, more advanced breathing. Then we touch upon pranayama, and believe it or not, we even go into the breath holding part, because breath holding is a wonderful discipline. That's also the part of pranayama that not many people know about. But holding your breath is actually just a long pause, right? So whether you want to make that pause 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute, or maybe 4 minutes, it's a pause in your life where your heart is not working as much, your brain is stopping, because every time we take a breath, your brain moves back and forth. And when that breath is uneven and uneasy, the brain is uneasy. So it goes very, very much beyond what's just on the surface.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, because the breath holding could be intimidating for a lot of people, myself included. If we don't want to do the breath holding, or just want to do it for a short period of time, we can still get the benefits, right? It's not really about breath holding.
But the breath holding is on land. It's on dry land. I explain the benefits. I explain why it's good. But again, it's just a pause. Yeah. It's just a pause like this. And then you can make it as long as you want. But people could try it at home when they watch this video. Make a pause of 10 seconds, and they can see that there's stillness in the mind, because there's no movement. So there's a physical stillness that transcends to a mental stillness, that transcends maybe to a spiritual stillness as well. People can play around with it. Yeah, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory at all.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll post a link onto the page so people can get some more information. I highly recommend, if you're listening to this video, that you check it out. Learn more about Stig, learn more about breathing exercises. I'm really excited about this area. You know, as we know, we're always looking for every aspect that's going to create sustainable weight loss by dealing with real issues rather than by just pure restriction and calories in, calories out kind of thing. This is an exciting field. I feel like the course that you have and the discipline and the teaching that you have is phenomenal, and I'm excited about it. So, Stig, thanks very much for your time, and thanks for being such an incredible person and spreading your message to the world. I think you're doing some great work, and I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You're most welcome, and thank you for everything you do and what you're on the world. And I'm excited to help everyone who's been listening here who want to continue the journey.
Cool.
And breathe better for weight loss and energy balance.
Excellent. Cool. And thanks everyone for listening, and check out Stig's information, check out his videos, and if you're interested in doing something that could potentially change your life forever by creating positive, healthy breathing habits, which you're doing all day, every day, that will reduce stress, reduce inflammation, and by doing so, help your body lose weight so much easier, then check out his 12-week course. It's pretty amazing, and I'm looking forward to joining it. I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks.